Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Size. And I'm going to jump right into this episode. The name of this episode is called The Real Deal on Holyfield, and essentially what's going on with Evander Holyfield. If you don't know, the legend, Evander, the real deal Holyfield, will be fighting this weekend against MMA legend Vitor Belfort. Now, the fact that these two legends are going to fight this weekend should be an interesting spectacle. However, I did look around and see a lot of people out there feel that Holyfield fighting at this age shouldn't be allowed. And now I just want to give you the real deal on the Holyfield situation. So, Evander Holyfield, 58 years old, is going to square off this weekend in a boxing match. The last time we saw Holyfield, he wasn't in his right wits. Let's be honest. The last time he fought, it was very lackluster, and it wasn't against very high quality opposition. To me, the real basically retirement of Evander Holyfield was when James Toney moved up to heavyweight and stopped Evander Holyfield, who had previously really never gets hurt, let alone stopped. So when James Toney hit him to the body, broke him down, and stopped the legend, to me, that's the symbolic end of his career. He tried a couple of comebacks, but again, Holyfield is up there in age. I mean, he's 7 years away from 65 years old. So when Oscar De La Hoya, who was originally supposed to fight Vitor Belfort, pulled out and Evander Holyfield decided to step in, I immediately thought, wow, Holyfield and De La Hoya are two very different fighters. I mean, Oscar fought and campaigned at 147 pounds for the majority of his career. I know he moved up to middleweight to fight Bernard Hopkins, but when you saw him against a real middleweight in Hopkins, Felix Sturm, guys that were bigger, you saw the tremendous size difference. So the fight between Oscar De La Hoya and Vitor Belfort, in my opinion, was very interesting because Vitor is a good striker, but most importantly, De La Hoya was not that big of a boxer. He used to campaign at 147. So I thought Vitor and him, I think De La Hoya was a superior boxer because De La Hoya, for as much as whether you hate him or love him, I know you saw him against Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao towards the tail end of his career, but De La Hoya can box his ass off. You're talking about an Olympic gold medalist in Oscar De La Hoya. So I thought that fight would be interesting because Oscar is a smaller guy. Maybe he gets tired. He hasn't been in the ring for a long time, and Vitor will get the best of him. Anything can happen. But when they announced Evander Holyfield, things got immediately more interesting. Evander Holyfield campaigned at heavyweight, and for as much as you say Holyfield's older, I can't see Vitor Belfort boxing on his back foot, trying to keep Evander Holyfield out. So you're going to be in a lot of tight exchanges, and not for anything. I know Vitor has good MMA hands, but there's a quality of difference when you're talking about Evander Holyfield versus Vitor Belfort in terms of striking. Holyfield on the inside can, even at 58 years old, in my opinion, give someone some trouble. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a foregone conclusion that Holyfield will win, but whether Vitor or Holyfield wins doesn't really matter. It's going to be a competitive fight. So I'll give you my prediction at the end of this video, but I just want to go into a different aspect and give you the real deal as to why Holyfield is fighting. A lot of people don't know that this fight wasn't originally approved by the California State Athletic Commission, and they actually had to move the fight several times in order to get it approved since this is an actual bout. I think California saw that Holyfield probably wouldn't be able to pass a physical, and it would be hard to sanction someone that's 58 years old to fight in a bout and not an exhibition, a straight up boxing fight. So when I did my research and heard that, I immediately was a little saddened by what happened. Holyfield has amassed great wealth in boxing, and it's nuts. I don't want to sit here and say sad because I'll never judge another man for trying to provide for his family or a woman for trying to provide for their family in any way necessary. Remember, you're talking about someone that legitimately amassed great wealth in boxing. You're not talking about 50 million. You're talking about a lot of money. And to see the fact that Holyfield wants to fight, I kind of wanted to take a second and really reflect on what's going on with Holyfield. Does he need more money? I mean, you hear how much he's made. Why would he need more, right? That's immediately what people go to. And they're like, oh, I'm saddened by the fact that our legends have to fight. Well, I hate to break this to you, but the main reason why this fight is happening is because of the money. Holyfield has 11 kids. He's had to He's had to file bankruptcy before, where he had to liquidate his properties. And clearly, this is a financially incentivized fight. And the question is it sad? Should I feel bad for Holyfield? And I've been waffling back and forth, but there's a part of me that thinks yes, and there's a part of me that thinks no. But I'm going to go out there and say I'm leaning towards no more than yes. I don't feel bad for Holyfield. I think fights like this, and originally, if you really think about the blueprint of Mike Tyson's Legends Only League, to have guys that are over the hill, to give them an avenue to fight for a lucrative amount of money in order to support themselves after their careers, when the twilight of their career is long gone. Because let's be honest, the twilight of Holyfield's career, again, as I said in the beginning, was that James Toney fight. I think that James Toney fight, you saw an older, visibly slower Holyfield get dominated by someone that was a middleweight and moved all the way up to heavyweight. Now, James Toney's a bad dude in the ring, but James Toney isn't messing with the prime Holyfield at heavyweight, right? Let's be honest. Prime Toney and prime Holyfield, prime Toney's probably 160, 168 in that range, and Holyfield's solid 190, 200. And let's be honest, James Toney would probably get stopped by Holyfield, or it would be a one-sided fight if Holyfield was in his heyday, because he knows how to fight like Toney, he knows how to attack angles, etc. But I was thinking, look, if you've amassed that much wealth in your life, I know people want to give the fantasy of all these other options that a guy like Holyfield can have, invest in various businesses, get passive income. Think of all of the things that people come up with nowadays, especially since everyone's a financial guru, especially now with crypto and Wall Street bets and all the things that happened out there, get rich quick schemes, multi-level marketing. You got to remember one thing. There's a 1% of wealth for a reason. 1% of people, or the 1% of the 1% that get really rich, are a minority. So you're asking a guy that didn't come from money, that doesn't know what it's like to truthfully amass that amount of money and then see the end of it, prepare for the after. Because what a lot of people don't realize is guys like Holyfield, have made massive amounts of money, but how much did he really see? How much does he spend? What are his liabilities, right? 11 kids. To me, I know that's a lot of money, but 11 kids where everyone's asking you for money. You have a promoter, you have a manager. And at the end of the day, you end up being very, very broke. And I think Holyfield is fighting for the money. And there's no other thing that I feel Holyfield can do that's going to amass him the amount of money he's going to make for this fight. Because the fight will probably do well. Triller is giving money out like crazy because, look, they haven't had a successful event since the Jake Paul fight. As much as they want to pretend like they have all these fights going on, the Triller verse is soon to be over. They're bleeding money. They're hemorrhaging money between Teofimo, between Oscar De La Hoya pulling out last minute. Triller just can't seem to catch a break. Mike Tyson fought on their card and never again, and he's suing them. Triller is out there suing a bunch of people for streaming the fights illegally. There's a lot going on in the Trillerverse. So I don't see where Holyfield should be judged for trying to fight. I mean, it's what he's done his whole life, and people out there that are judging him for fighting. What else is he going to do? All those people that are saying it's sad, don't pay your bills. All the people that are saying it's sad to see would do something way worse for way less, right? Well, let's be honest. Desperation causes what? And if Holyfield's desperate to fight and he feels like he can ultimately, let's be honest, I don't think Holyfield's going to get knocked out by Vitor Belfort. And the same thing goes for Vitor Belfort. He's a legend in MMA. clearly he's fighting for what? For money, because as much as people think that the UFC fighters are getting these exorbitant paydays because we're giving fans what they want, their best fights, they're not making that much money, right? Relatively speaking, yes, they are. But when you really think about it, your career is so small. So you think you're going to make that your entire life. And then before you know it, you're 60, almost like Holyfield, amassed all this money, gone through so much money, gone through so many bankruptcies, restructurings, all the liabilities he has. And then you get this event. And I see both sides of the spectrum. I think these events are good for guys at the end of their career to make a pretty penny, because if the pay-per-view does even marginally well, you're looking at a couple 100,000, right? If it sells extremely well, I'm not sure how much Holyfield's going to get, because a lot of this stuff that's negotiated, if the event doesn't make the money, sometimes the fighters don't get paid. So I don't know, but I'm glad Holyfield has an avenue to make some money. I don't think Vitor Belfort is gonna really do much to him. He may get hit, even if he gets knocked out. Holyfield, more power to make your money how you want it. And we have to stop with this notion that, yes, we care about the fighters, but then when they're fighting, you say, oh, they're ducking because they're not getting enough money. And then you look at the end of their career, they're doing stuff like this. So you guys have to give people credit for doing what's best for them in their career. And I think Holyfield right now, it's a unique opportunity to make a lot of money. And I'm sure he wants that fight. He's wanted to fight Tyson. He's wanted to cash in on this cash grab that's entertainment boxing, the crossovers, the wild matches. Why not let a legend who's given so much, as you can see in his health, make it pretty punny? So those are my thoughts. Respect to Andre Ward, one of the very few that seems to be retired and wants to stay retired, and he hasn't ruined his legacy or tarnished his pristine legacy. So shout out to him. But that's the episode for today. Hit that like button if you like this video. If you are on Spotify and Apple, thank you for hearing this episode. Hit that download button, follow, etc. If you want to leave a review, feel free. But thank you so much for all the support, and we're going to keep this going. All right. Thank you. Be well. Wait, I never gave you my prediction. So rewind that back. I personally think Holyfield's going to win this fight. I look at Vitor Belfort. He looks younger. He's probably on TRT or whatever he is on. Juicy Vitor Belfort's a beast, let's be honest. But Holyfield's going to be too crafty. If Vitor tries to bang with him, I think Holyfield's just going to knock Vitor out because he doesn't have the best chin. Power doesn't win you fights, and truthfully, Holyfield has seen what Vitor Belfort can do. Whether he's old or not, the last thing an older fighter loses is their punch. And I think he's going to knock Vitor Belfort out in this fight. So that's my prediction. I don't really have a dog that much in the fight, but I'm going to go with the supreme hands of Holyfield versus Vitor Belfort. And that's my prediction.